Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. I am Sterling Holmes, doing a little Q&A with y'all today. Anything you want to ask, I will do my best to try and answer. When I say anything, most things. Most things. Hopefully Chiefs related, but if you want to talk beer, music, Big 12, March Madness, anything in between, feel free. Yes, this is not my normal setup. I am at the radio station right now. I'm trying to make it a little more homey, right? So got my nice little Priest Holmes printout above my right shoulder. Shout out to Matt Connor for giving me this. But again, we'll do a Q&A. Matt Connor is MIA. He is on vacation. Much deserved. Before we go farther, want to say, if you've not already signed up for DraftKings, they're offering a fantastic sign-up bonus for new users. New customers can place a $5 first bet on any sport to instantly claim $150 in bonus bets when you sign up with our code Arrowhead. The best part is that you will receive your rewards even if your first bet loses. Using our code Arrowhead not only gets you these bonuses, but also directly supports our podcast. So if you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, make sure to use the code Arrowhead to maximize those first bets. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. All right, now, first thing that I wanted to talk about is Hollywood Brown. Now, I know it's not breaking news anymore, and we've talked about it pretty much in detail over the past few days, but I find it fascinating when you see what his contract was, and then you break down and see what the Browns just did to extend Jerry Jeudy today. Now, I think those guys, fairly similar players. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy has the first-round hype surrounding him. But when it comes down to it, I'm sitting here going, Jerry Jeudy just got a 19 mil AAV per year contract, and he's done nothing in Cleveland. How have the Browns not learned? Well, so it makes the Browns the Browns. The Chiefs, on the other hand, 7 mil up to 11 for Hollywood Brown on a 1-year deal. Now, part of me thinks, okay, it's not the worst thing for Hollywood Brown either. He didn't sign a 2-year, 3-year deal at this price. That'd be great for Kansas City, but let's be real now. For Hollywood Brown's future potential earnings, he understands that this is the ultimate contract year. When you have those incentives, when you have the chance, I believe it was something along the lines of if he gets over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns, you're looking at a $2.5 million bonus. So, not bad. End of the day, you look at a lot of the wide receivers around the NFL who, quite frankly, I think are worse than Hollywood Brown and got more guaranteed money in an AAV situation. I'm perplexed. Now, I understand a lot of teams don't have the cachet the Chiefs have. A lot of teams don't have the, okay, come here, throw on the red, and have a chance to win a Super Bowl, to rock a ring, to hold a Lombardi. But at the end of the day, how many players have we seen actually make that leap? How many guys go into free agency and they say, I want to play for a Super Bowl contender. I want to play with a chance to play with a Hall of Fame quarterback. I want to be the guy. And then what do you see? They sign with the bleeping Titans. They want the money. We know how this goes. Hollywood Brown is one of the few guys, although I will say the reports have been his market was a lot lower than he expected. But still, you're telling me there wasn't an opportunity out there for him to make more than this? Again, good spot for him to be in. And while I think a lot of folks might think of him, hopefully you guys don't, but some will, as a bona fide wide receiver 1, I liken him as a very good wide receiver 2. Okay? I liken him as a very different playing styles. Hopefully he stays healthier more so than this guy, but as Sammy Watkins. Right? Watkins was always a really solid, really good wide receiver 2. I think that's Hollywood Brown. I don't think of him in the A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase category. I think of him as, again, a really good wide receiver 2, which is fine when you have a guy like Rashee Rice and, oh yeah, still Travis Kelce. What Hollywood Brown does and what he brings is the versatility to this offense that the Chiefs did not have. What Hollywood Brown brings is a guy who can actually play on the outside, so you're not trying to pigeonhole Sky Moore, a slot receiver, into doing something that A, he's not good at, B, is not able to do, and C, is too young and inexperienced to do. So you bring in Hollywood Brown, a deep threat, a yak guy, who, yes, at times has had some drop issues, but what's new for Chiefs wide receivers? Get to a couple comments here. Kev Dog says, Sterling, are you in the Arrowhead Addict janitor's closet? LOL. No, again, I'm at the radio station right now. It's my office. If you remember all those jerseys that were on the wall, they're actually on the other wall. I'm going to work to make this my home away from home. So that Priest Holmes poster is just the start. It's interesting because this thing does not hold very well. It's that kind of foam. So I can't hang anything heavy. It won't stick. So posters is what it is. I'm like going back to my high school days. I'll get some blacklight posters, my blacklight Led Zeppelin poster, and throw that bad boy up there. Aaron says, love the pick. Probably need more. I'm still looking at left tackle. Yeah, I think you're right. Tyron Smith, when you saw the contract he received, that was unattainable for Kansas City. 1 year up to $20 million for the Jets. Chiefs had no chance to match that. They just didn't. I thought of him more as a $10 million range because, hey, the injuries. He's been injured for the past, 4, 5 seasons? Yeah, when he plays, he's phenomenal, but let's be real now. You got to play. I thought the Chiefs were in a unique position to where they trusted Wanya Morris more than other teams as a backup left tackle, just in case of injury. But Jets took the risk. Too hefty for Kansas City. I think you're probably looking at the draft, but again, or maybe even a veteran bring back of a Donovan Smith, of whoever is going to be released at left tackle who is in their early 30s. I'm still higher on Wanya Morris than most. I don't know everyone in the chat, their thoughts on Wanya. I'm telling you mine right now. If Wanya Morris is the starting left tackle next season, I'm going to be okay. Maybe I'm bold. It's just my opinion. I think when you see left tackles in general, defensive linemen, pretty much the trenches, but especially tackle and defensive tackle and edges on defense. I'm sitting here going, you typically see the largest growth year over year from year 1 to year 2. I always go back to Andrew Thomas with the Giants. Andrew Thomas was atrocious his rookie season, and he turned into one of the best tackles in football. He was drafted, 4th overall. So I am sitting back here saying the highs of Wanya Morris were such that gives me belief. The lows were such that makes me think, okay, he knows what he needs to work on. And not just that. When you see the lows of last year, those lows will be a lot fewer, less than what we saw last year. That's going to be more of the outlier instead of the norm. That's my opinion. Hopefully you guys share it as well. Thomas Rodney says, we did one more good wide receiver and we will be, if we get one more good wide receiver, we will be unstoppable. What do you think? I don't want to go that far. I think what it comes down to is I want to see the Chiefs draft a wide receiver that can stick in Kansas City who can grow in Kansas City and do it all on a rookie contract. Cost controlled is key when you have a quarterback on a non-rookie contract. When you're paying the money to Mahomes, Chris Jones, Joe Tooney, Jawan Taylor, you got to make concessions somewhere. So where do you make them? I always say you make it at wide receiver, the spot where the $500 million quarterback can elevate. He cannot elevate the defense. So he can elevate wide receivers to an extent, of course, now that they're not catching the football. So drafting a wide receiver and having another guy like a Rashee Rice, you don't need a A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams. You don't need a prime DeAndre Hopkins out there. What you need are competent wide receivers, and Mahomes will make the difference. We saw it with Rashee Rice. A competent rookie made all the difference last season. Just turns out that a lot of the other wide receivers in Kansas City, well, they weren't competent, at least with their hands, or they weren't in the right spot. That's what it comes down to. So for me, I don't think they need a big-name wide receiver. I don't think they need another veteran wide receiver. I want them to take another shot at wide receiver in the draft. Josh I. Peck says, need to get Dominic Pooney, a 5-position player on the O-line. He also says, would love Ladd McConkey in this offense. I think Ladd McConkey is a very interesting name. I don't know where I'm at with wide receiver because there's so many good wide receivers in this upcoming draft, but there's obviously that cutoff, right? You have the top guys. You have Rome. You have Marvin Harrison Jr., right? You have the cutoff of Malik Neighbors. You have the top 3. But then you get down and you're going here, well, is Troy Franklin, Xavier Worthy, Xavier Legette, Ladd McConkey? I mean, the list goes on and on. I'm sitting here going, with that many good wide receivers, do you wait until the second round to draft a wide receiver in this upcoming draft? I lean towards yes. And that's only if certain players are still left on the board in the first round. If T'Vondre Sweat is right there. Now, you're going to hear me say T'Vondre Sweat a lot. You've probably heard me say it in the past, and I will say it now. I want to see someone who's more of an impact player on the defensive line, interior defensive line, alongside next to Chris Jones. Now, I know they're trying to bring the gang back together. Turk Wharton, Derek Nottie, Mike Pennell. Does that give you guys a whole bunch of fun feelings? I mean, yeah, they were fine last season, but if you had to pick the deficit on the defense last year, it was that second interior defensive line spot, the one alongside Chris Jones. Derek Nottie did not grade out well. Turk Wharton. Mike Pennell was great in the playoffs, but can he do that the entire 17-game regular season and then in the playoffs? Probably not. I mean, let's be real now. He would have been doing it if he was capable. I'm fine with stashing Mike Pennell. Let him get a little bit of a, oh no, Mike, are you injured? And then about week 14, say, okay, Mike, come back off the IR and be the beast that we know you can be. That's where I sit with him. I would like to see an impact player alongside Chris Jones on the interior defensive line. I think Fisk is also a dude to take a look at as well. Because again, when you get down to the second round, there's a lot of ways you can go. I know Adam Best, very high if you want to go tied in with it with Jatavion Sanders, right? That's an interesting name right there. I think Jatavion Sanders, if you're going to get a little crispy with it and go tight end, I think you can. I'm just intrigued by the way the Chiefs are able to operate come the draft because they have not pigeonholed themselves any longer. The signing of Hollywood Brown at least gives them some sort of semblance of a wide receiver core. Now, it's not deep. We get that. Any wide receiver group where Sky Moore is probably sitting at wide receiver 4 right now, it ain't deep. It ain't great. But still, you got Hollywood and you got Rashee. I think the Chiefs put themselves in a phenomenal spot to grab the best player available. Hell, if L'Jarius Sneed is only going to come back on the franchise tag, and I'll get to L'Jarius Sneed in just a moment, if Ennis Rakestraw is still there at 32 in the first round, take a shot on a cornerback. Again, I know they have a plethora of talent there. I get it. But do you take a first-round talent instead of maybe a second-round talent at the tail end of the first round? I think it's an interesting question to pose. Couple questions to see right here. Thomas says, hey, I trust Andy Reid and Brett. They know what they are doing. You bet your ass, Thomas. I agree, man. At this point, whether it's pretty offensively or not, whether they dominate the regular season or not, who cares? They're the ones hoisting the Lombardis. They're the one with 3 rings in 5 years. Like, I don't care how it gets done as long as it gets done. You got to trust Brett and you got to trust Andy. Question here says, could you see a trade up for a position of need, or is no one going to trade with us out of spite? I think it's an interesting question. I don't necessarily think it's out of spite necessarily. At some point, teams will have to say, you know what, this offer is too good to pass up. But I do think there's something where we already saw the Steelers say they don't want to trade with Kansas City, right? They don't want to trade with the Chiefs. They're not even in competition in the AFC. They're atrocious. I'm sitting here thinking, while it might sound fun to try and trade up and grab one of the top tackles in the draft, the amount of draft capital the Chiefs will have to sink into that is going to be too much. The amount of that player better turn into an all-pro, if that guy's just merely average, you have just shot a lot of draft capital out the window. And by the way, the Chiefs don't have a full tank this current draft to deal with. I wouldn't do it. I'm always a fan of trading down personally. Again, the Chiefs tried last year. They tried trading up last year, didn't happen. Tried trading back last year, didn't happen. And when the Chiefs tried to trade back, if they couldn't do it with Will Levis on the board at 32 a quarterback, where you think the fifth-year option, especially for a quarterback, makes a lot of sense, good luck this year. All right, a couple more questions to get here. Chiefs Extreme. Chiefs can free up $3.1 million by cutting the lame tight end Noah Gray, who cannot block. Chiefs are paying numerous players the vet minimum, but pay $83.3 million. I'm going to disagree with you, man. He's not a blocking tight end. That was Blake Bell's gig. I get what you're saying. He's not a very good blocking tight end, but that's not why he was drafted. I think Noah Gray is a consistent 400 to 500 yard backup tight end. I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that you say, oh yeah, I trust him taking over Travis Kelce's role as tight end 1 on this team. But I think he's a valuable backup tight end. That tight end 3 spot is where you really want the blocker, which again made the pickup of Ricky Seals Jr. 2.0 a little perplexing to me. Justin says it's all about balance. The offense will be better this year. So even if the defense of line isn't spectacular, we're still in good shape. No, I agree. The offense should be better this year, but the defense, I think, is going to be about exactly where it's at last year. I don't think last year was a fluke. I know the loss of Willie Gay Jr. is a decent one, but that just means more play for Leo Chenal, who really emerged late last season, as well as more play for Drew Tranquil. And hopefully that means Nick Bolton stays healthy as well. Angry Drunken German says, so we're back. Bleep had to walk the dog. Always got to walk the dog, baby. Angry Drunken German, your dog will thank you. You can always see my ugly mug later. You can always start this bad boy from the top if you have to. Your dog can't wait. I can wait. Gary says, do you see the Chiefs interested in Jerry Rice's son, Brendan Rice, as a receiver? Now, I actually was very intrigued by Brendan Rice. I had a chance to interview Brendan Rice on Radio Row. I was left pretty enamored by him. I need to check more of his tape. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I've watched all of Brendan Rice, and I think, yeah, the Chiefs have to go and get him. But what I was left with the feeling of after talking to Brendan was this is a former athlete's Hall of Fame, best wide receiver of all time son who wants to make his own name or at least continue the legacy, and he's not trying to piggyback off his dad. And I think that's important. Now, not all players do this, but some players do this. Some players are like, look at my dad. He's a Hall of Famer. I should be here. I should be drafted here. I want to go wherever I want. I'm a diva because of my dad. Brendan Rice was not like that at all. That was not the persona I gathered from him. Hard worker. Although I did ask him if he's ever run the hill. He said no. Maybe that's a little of a little red flag there. But I thought Brendan Rice was very intriguing. And if the Chiefs interview him, I think they're going to be impressed with his interview knowledge. So I think Brendan Rice is very intriguing to me. Clifton says our defense is fine. It was ranked second for the 2023 season. Mahomes deserves a better receiving core. I think we need to draft the best receiver available. Now, Clifton, again, I'm not necessarily disagreeing. The defense as a whole was great, but if you just stand still, you're moving backwards in the NFL. Again, my thought process is there will be a lot of wide receivers who are very talented in this draft. There's only a finite amount of round one grades. The Chiefs have put themselves in a position with, again, the addition of Hollywood Brown, where they no longer have pigeonholed themselves into having to draft a wide receiver in round one. And by the way, if you look at the success rate for wide receivers in round one versus round two, very, very similar. Okay, just something to keep in mind. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but I want to at least put in totality my thoughts here. I appreciate what you're saying there. I just don't want to reach for a wide receiver who is more of a mid-round, second-rounder at 32 when there's a legit guy who probably should have been drafted 26, 27, 28 that the Chiefs could get at 32. That, to me, might make the team better overall than just forcing yourself to draft a wide receiver. I see a spam there. No, I'm not going to answer your question, spam person. I apologize. Let's see. Beep says, what are your thoughts on Johnny Wilson for KC? Not going to lie, not fully entrenched on the 6'7" Johnny Wilson. Florida State man, 6'7", 238. Wow. Okay. You've intrigued me. 6'7", 238. Lance Zierlein says his NFL comp is Devin Funchess. I'll have to take a little deeper dive. Doesn't seem like a guy that Chiefs would typically go for. 6'7's intriguing, man. It's always going to be intriguing, but we'll see. I'll take a little deeper dive there, Beep. That was a interesting name. Laugh for Life Entertainment question. If Atlanta approached KC for a pitch to KC for their pick, would you do it? They can draft Bowers with their first pick. Depends the pick, man. If it's first round, hell no. Sorry. If I'm in Kansas City, I'm not getting, was it the last year of Kyle Pitts? I guess you also have the 5th-year option if you want for a first rounder now. The value's not there for me. If it was a third, sure. But does Atlanta want to do that? Atlanta has not used Kyle Pitts. They treat Kyle Pitts as if he's Jonnu Smith. But now no Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith is out. He's gone to Pittsburgh, which Pittsburgh, what are you doing? Haven't you watched Arthur Smith as a head coach, as an OC? Why do you want him in Pittsburgh? I don't know. Pittsburgh's doing some weird things. If it was a third rounder for Kyle Pitts, I'm in. Second rounder, probably out still. You got to turn around and pay the guy. You got to turn, and I get he's not had a great production, so what does his market look like? Very, very good question. But I don't want to give a second rounder for a year, potentially 2 years of a guy. I'm out on that. That's just my personal perspective. If Atlanta, who was supposedly, I thought I read it, was interested in L'Jarius Sneed back a little earlier this offseason. If you would have said L'Jarius for Kyle Pitts and the Atlanta Falcons also throw in a little something, sure, I'd be intrigued. I'd be more apt to that. But again, then the Falcons are going to have to say the exact same thing of, okay, well, now we got to turn around and pay L'Jarius Sneed, who wants to get paid a bleep ton of money. That's why final years of contract, franchise tag players, no matter how great they are, it always comes with a, most likely, the thought process of they're not going to return as much as you think because that team now has to make them one of the highest paid players at their position. Josh says, I have a feeling we will finish out the roster with 1 or 2 free agents, draft players, and UDFAs. Yeah, again, once cut day comes down, you'll probably see some former players, some veterans who might get picked up here in Kansas City. Thomas says, I saw something that said Odell Beckham was wanting to talk to the Chiefs. Says, God, I hope not. Can I say something about Odell Beckham Jr.? This is going to be a safe spot, please. Safe space in my little cubicle, which looks like I'm in a insane asylum, so maybe I am insane when I say this thought. I don't hate the thought process of Odell Beckham Jr. in Kansas City. And that was the sound of everyone leaving this stream. But hear me out. I'm not saying I want him here in Kansas City on his contract last year. But if you're telling me you can get OBJ for 1 for 5, 1 for 4, 1 for 3, up to 7, dog can still catch the ball. Look at what he did last year. Yeah, he didn't play in every single game. Yeah, the overall numbers weren't great, but I think they're better than people think he was. Again, it's all for the right price, but you know he's going to catch the ball. I think you know he can be in the right spot. You know he can play the outside, so if you think Rashee Rice is best suited as a slot receiver, then that's Hollywood Brown on the outside and OBJ on the other outside. X, Y, and Z, baby. I'm just sitting here going, why wouldn't you kick the tires? He still showed last year he had something, not a lot, but something left in the tank. If you want a rookie to develop behind that guy, go ahead and do it. Again, I'm not saying a 1 for 10, but maybe a 1 for 5, a 1 for up to number. That, to me, with OBJ would be intriguing. It actually sounds like a few of y'all in the chat don't disagree with me too much, so thank you. I thought that was going to be a very hot take, that people were going to throw tomatoes at me, but thank you for not being rude. Appreciate that. Chiefs again says, bring Pringle back, dude. Come on, let it go. Let Byron Pringle go. Let me pull up some numbers for you. I get it. I get he was fine here. I think we're enamored by the fun story and not the production. Here's what Byron Pringle has done since he left Kansas City. 135 yards, 11 games. 161 yards, 17 games. He's 30. If he could not get PT in Chicago or in Washington, no, I'm sorry. It was a fun story, Byron Pringle. I like the dude, representing EMAW, Wildcats, K-State. That's great. He had his time. It's done in Kansas City. What's that, less than 330 yards over the past 2 seasons? Going to be 30-31. I don't care who his quarterback was. He is in the ilk, better hands, in the ilk of a Sky Moore at this point, in my opinion. I think if you're telling me could I have Byron Pringle or Sky Moore, give me Sky. He's younger, cost-controlled, rookie contract, more upside. That's my thoughts. Beep says, should I have any hope for Justin Ross this season? Looks like he might not even make the roster. I wouldn't hold out hope for him. Tried to pump the brakes last year, and then I got enamored a little bit by it, but I was still more of the cautious, optimistic last year, and at some point you got to do it. It's why when guys are so good in college and then get injured, and then all of a sudden people expect them to be the exact same guy, I never understand it. Like, I don't understand when people thought he was a first-round talent that for some reason just went undrafted because of injury. No. If he's a first-round talent, they got that bad of an injury. I get the Chiefs were the ones that cleared him, all this stuff. I understand. A team would have taken a shot in the 5th round. A team would have taken a dart. They didn't. The guy for New England played at LSU, Keyshawn Boutte, right? Kind of a similar story. Really good rookie year, or freshman year, good sophomore year, injured, and then had a down final year before he went into the NFL draft. I don't hear New England Patriots fans clamoring to say Keyshawn Boutte's going to be a stud. That's why I thought it was a little funny when Chiefs fans were doing it last year with Justin Ross, because that's a very similar comp, at least in my mind. I thought we were just trying to find any wide receiver, any X receiver, any outside wide receiver, any big-bodied wide receiver that we thought could make an impact, and he was on the roster, so we were going to clamor and hitch our wagons to him. I thought it was a little bit unfounded. It's why when the Chiefs went and got Josh Gordon, I thought it was silly. I'm on record saying that. And we saw what actually happened. It was silly. I think we get caught up sometimes in past production and we fail to look ahead. Teams in the NFL are always looking ahead. It's why you can't pay players for what they've done. Unfair? Yes. It's the nature of the beast. It's what have you done for me lately, and what are you going to do? Not how good were you 3 or 4 years ago. Now, again, I'm fine when Brett Veach takes flyers and darts on former first rounders. The Mike Hughes experiment, it's fun. I get it. The John Ross in training camp, former first rounder, it's fun. End of the day, we shouldn't have a ton of hope. There's reasons why guys and other teams either traded them for pennies or released them. Couple more questions here. Angry Drunken German says, in a year when KC needed anyone to step up at wide receiver, Ross got suspended and then didn't step up. He's had his look. That's kind of how I feel as well. Josh says I'd bring back Conley just because of his special teams play in the Super Bowl. Yeah, man, he was electric for the 49ers. I kept saying, where's this Chris Conley been? Yeah, Chris Conley was awesome in the Super Bowl for the 49ers. That was, I was happy for him. I'm sure that's a lot of emotions going against your former team. So I was actually happy that Chris Conley in that game had himself a great game. Nate Davis says Reynolds or Chark should be very cheap and good depth. I think I'm out on DJ Chark personally, but Reynolds is intriguing, although I still feel like he's going to get paid more than he probably should. Maybe I'm wrong, but we all saw what he did at the tail end of last year in the playoffs. Now, of course, the last game he was brutal, had a lot of massive drops. Big stage, I get it. But in totality, I thought Reynolds had a nice season, but I feel like a lot of folks are valuing him because they saw him in big games make big plays. And it's almost like Gabe Davis, right? Where some team might pay because they go, oh, we saw him on prime time. Let's give him more money than, well, the stats should actually indicate. I don't know if it's the case with Reynolds or not. The Chiefs were supposedly interested in him a couple years ago before he signed with the Titans, if I'm not mistaken. He's bounced around the NFL. I think Reynolds would be an interesting veteran to target. But again, we will see what his contract actually bears. ADG says Dobbins is out there, but he's diminished. J.K. Dobbins he's had so many injuries. I feel for the guy. I really do. Question, who do you think is going to finalize as our wide receiver 3, Moore, Tony, or Watson? So, yeah, I guess you have Rice 1, Hollywood 2, however you want to break that down. Man, I think Watson's a good call because Watson plays on the outside. If you want, it depends who you want in the slot. If you want a slot receiver and you want Rashee Rice to play the outside, then I think you're looking at Sky Moore being, as of today, your wide receiver 3. If you want Rashee Rice to play the slot predominantly, then I think you have Justin Watson play the other outside spot. That's how I think it would break down as we sit here on March 19th. Again, pre-drafted rookie. Nate says, how about left tackle? We sticking with Wanye. I talked about this earlier on in this Q&A. I'm higher on Wanye than most. Doesn't mean I think that's necessarily the way the Chiefs are going to operate, but I'm pretty high on Wanye personally. Bumpa BB says Sky would be wide receiver 3 on practice squad. I don't know why I can't quit Sky Moore. Like, I don't think he's going to be great, but I can't quit the dude. I think he's in his head. I hope he sees like a sports psychologist. I really believe that he had a little bit of the Rick Ankiel, John Lester, Chuck Knobloch syndrome going on last year. So I'm probably wrong. Again, I don't think Sky Moore is going to be a stud, but I still think he can be a useful wide receiver in the NFL. Did you see Phil Simms, top 5 wide receivers? He has Marvin Harrison Jr. as 3. No, I did not, but I think it's silly, but also he's probably doing it for clicks. Let's be real now. If he firmly believes that, then good for him, and maybe he ends up being right. But that's a bold take and one that might be a clickbait title. I don't know. I'm out on that, man. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is clear-cut wide receiver 1, in my opinion. Need someone besides Humphrey to snap. We have no one. Humphrey's going to be the center, man. I know it's frustrating last year, and luckily that Mahomes is a gold glove shortstop back there at quarterback. Maybe even a first baseman with some of the one-hops too. But he's a center. He's too talented, too good. I think he will figure it out. I hope, I pray. But Creed Humphrey's still going to be the center. So he's too good. Kev Dog says, hey, Sterling, what do you think about Isaiah Pacheco, new nickname, Mini Marshawn? Solid. That's solid. The more I say Mini Marshawn, the more I like it. So I saw something about Kelsey trying to play another 4 years. If so, great. But have you seen enough from Irv Smith in the NFL to think he could be something long-term for the Chiefs? First question, 4 years is a lot. I hope he does. But if it's even 4 more years in the NFL, he probably wouldn't be a 4-year, 1,000-yard guy. We all hope he is, but that's pretty bold. And then Irv Smith, no, I have not. Again, that's why I think he's a little bit more like Ricky Seals-Jones 2.0. I think it's a decent depth signing. I think it's fine. But that's what it is. It's fine. Irv Smith Jr. is fine. All right. I'm going to give my little sorry, I was reading a comment there. My L'Jarius Sneed update. Carrington Harrison, who I really trust, believe in. He works at 6'11" -1. He's a good dude. He says, no team has made a second-round offer. This was as of yesterday. Sneed's desire to become the highest paid CB in the league, and that's been the major holdup. The Chiefs are fine with him playing on tag next season, and the medicals are concerning. Again, it's not necessarily breaking news. I guess the most intriguing part was he wants to become the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. Now, again, we all want to be the highest paid at what we do at his age, with the knee, with no all-pros. Again, he should have been one, but he was not all-pro last year, obviously. I mean, what team is going to make him the highest paid corner? I don't see it. That just seems a little far-fetched. We saw what Jalen Johnson got. I thought he would be in that range, if not a little bit cheaper, because, again, Jalen Johnson was over 2 years younger. So if L'Jarius Sneed and his contract demands are such, and that's been the holdup on a trade partner, again, yeah, I think the Chiefs would be fine with him on the franchise tag. L'Jarius, on the other hand, I don't know if he would. He's coming off what most likely will be his best season as a corner in the NFL. He was absolutely electric. And you do have those knee concerns. Again, they're not alarm bells, but it's the smoke alarm, okay? You should keep an eye on that smoke alarm. It ain't going off yet, but make sure the battery is in there and you're checking on that bad boy, because while he played in all the games last year, he was almost perpetually on the injury report. That's not good for a cornerback who their lifespan in the NFL isn't extremely long. Look at a lot of guys who were great, who fell off at the age 28, 29, 30. L'Jarius is 27. I would be concerned, and I do think that's probably why L'Jarius Sneed is currently still in Kansas City. Trade value is not enough for the Chiefs to make the move. The Chiefs could have one more year, again, probably one more great year from L'Jarius, and they're not having to pay for the down years. So from Kansas City's perspective, the franchise tag might actually make the most sense. Not saying Humphrey would be replaced, but there's no one to snap now that Allegretti is gone. Yeah, they'll find someone, whether it's Austin Ryder, Allegretti, they'll find a backup center. They're not going to ever replace Creed Humphrey in a game. They're just not. He's too good of a blocker. He's too much of a game changer at center. Mike Caliendo can play on the offensive line, but I don't think that outside of a legit backup center or a backup offensive guard that can play center, the Chiefs are going to have any sort of pressure on Creed Humphrey. Nate says, sure, I mean, if you get offered anything less than a third, run it back this year and take the comp pick next year. And that's the same thing. Again, from that report from Carrington, yeah, there's no second rounder. If it's only a third, I do think you're sitting here going, I think you let him play out on the franchise tag. Now, L'Jarius won't be thrilled with the lack of security, but also he's never made real big-time money in the NFL. He was a fourth rounder. So for him, that's his first real big chunk of change. Not the worst thing in the world to make 19.8 mil. I'll tell you this much. I would take it. Bumpa says Sneed's agent's worse than Cats Bros. Yeah, at least the Cats Bros back-assed their way into a great deal for Chris. Quite frankly, Chris Jones, probably glad he signed it this year instead of last. Chris Jones and the Cats Bros, from the 2 scoops of Ass Bros to the Cats Bros getting it done. They did what was best for Chris. Surprisingly. Give credit where credit's due. I don't know if it's on purpose or not. But Chris Jones got himself a larger payday this year than he would have last year. And I'm assuming this is in regards to L'Jarius Sneed. Any chance he'll sit out? No, I'd be beyond shocked. That would make no sense for him. For a cornerback at that age with the medicals, who again was a 4th rounder who's not made a big chunk of change in his NFL career, it would not behoove L'Jarius Sneed to sit out at all. Chris Jones had the security. He knew he was going to get paid eventually. L'Jarius Sneed at that volatile position, way too risky. So no, I would be beyond surprised if that was even on the table. All right, let's wrap this up a little bit. I appreciate everyone for hanging out with the Q&A, but I want to see Richard in here because I know Matt Connor's not here, but I want to do our must list. Richard, how are you?
I'm doing well, Sterling. Thank you for pulling me into this.
You seem thrilled.
No, I am. I am. And have a great day. How's it going, everybody? Yeah. I'm totally ready for this, as you can tell.
All right, you go first. What's your must list?
Actually, my must list is going to be kind of fun. I didn't even go out and go crazy this St. Paddy's Day weekend, but I still somehow managed to lose my ID. And my must list for everybody here is something I just want to teach y'all. Y'all must know that if you do find a lost ID out there, you can drop that bad boy in the U.S., of course. You could drop that bad boy into any U.S. post office box, and they will mail it back to the person who lost it. So if you're out there, person in Chicago who found my ID, put that in a mailbox. You must do this. I'm pointing at the camera right now, by the way, for the audio listeners. I'm intent. To the audio listeners out there, if you find my ID, put that in a mailbox. That's my must list. What do you got?
Okay. Don't lose your wallet or your ID. First and foremost. I'll do mine. Casey Bishop. She put out an EP in 2022. I have no idea how this ended up on my phone, but I was like, oh, what's this? Let me just listen to it because it's kind of what I do. And it was killer. It's pop, alternative, a little rock, but it's pop in the sense that she has a little bit of a pop voice, but not quite. It's not like the new pop today where it's like, oh man, that's so auto-tuned, overproduced, that's atrocious. It's her natural voice. It reminds me a little bit of almost like Michelle Branch style, where there's real musicians in the background. It's real drums. It's real guitar. There's a sick bass line going on. So I'd probably classify it more as alternative pop than anything else. But it was a 6-song EP, Casey Bishop EP. No idea who she is, but I found it on my phone. If you're on Apple Music, I looked it up, and 6 songs. It's like 17 minutes long. It's quick. Good. Like, surprisingly good. So, you know what? That's my must list. I got crazy with it today, Richard. I thought outside of the box.
That doesn't sound that crazy. That sounds. I'm going to check that out. 17 minutes doesn't seem like much out of my day. So let's all check out Casey Bishop and send the love.
Yeah. All right, Richard, I appreciate it. I'm not going to make you take us out this time. I'm not going to do what Matt Connor does, make you take us out.
Thank you,
Matt Connor's out next week. We might be moving the time up next week. If we do, don't say I didn't warn you. If we do move the time up next week, it will be 3 p.m. Central. Right now, the tentative guest filling in for Matt Connor as he sits, I think, on a beach drinking a Mai Tai will be Josh Briscoe. Yeah. Josh Briscoe going to have some fun with me on this show next week. Again, that is the plan as of today, March 19th. But in the radio podcast world, things change. So that's the plan for now. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Hopefully I answered some of your questions. Hopefully I calmed some of your nerves, or maybe I exasperated some of your nerves. If so, drink a beer responsibly, of course. Have fun. Until next time, we are out.